Okay, so we're recording. So I want to welcome everyone who's in the circle here and people who are watching this recording. So this is an empathy circle that we're holding on December 6th of 2018. And the topic for tonight is political identity. You know, why do we call ourselves a particular thing? Conservative, liberal, Democrat, Republican, whatever, libertarian, whatever, however you call yourself, or if you don't call yourself anything, if you don't like labeling yourself, what makes up your political identity? How do you see yourself? And the empathy circle process, just to give a quick overview, is it's not just a regular conversation. The empathy circle process is kind of a structured listening process. So we will take turns speaking, and our turns will be timed. We're going to start out with 3-minute turns. So someone will speak for 3 minutes, and before they start speaking, they will select one person in the circle to reflect back what they are saying. And everyone in the circle listens, but it's the reflector's job to, when the speaker pauses, to reflect back what they are hearing. And the speaker should pause periodically so that the reflector can do that. And if as a listener, you know, you're getting too much information, you can't hold it all, you can ask the speaker to hold on while you reflect back what you've heard so far. The goal is for the speaker to feel heard and understood. And that's the measure by which we judge, or that's the goal, is for the speaker to be heard. If you're the speaker, when you feel heard, you can say, "Thank you, I feel heard." When you hear the timer go off, you just finish up what you're saying. You don't have to stop instantly, but you finish up what you're saying and then get a final reflection. And then the listener becomes the speaker, and they selected a different person in the circle. And I do request that generally people select someone who has not listened yet in this round to be the speaker, and that way the speaking and the listening gets balanced out. Because part of the structure is to provide mutuality in the conversation, so everybody has a chance to participate as both a speaker and a listener. Yeah, so the listening and the speaking works its way around the circle, and when everyone's had a chance to speak, we just keep going. So any questions about the process before we start?
I've done this a few times.
Okay. Dave, is there anything you want to add to what I've said?
I was doing that other thing. I'm sure you covered it.
Okay. The other thing, actually, which is very important, is to kind of state our intention.
David's here, so that might be complicated.
What did you say?
We have two Davids here. We might want to address that.
Okay. So one could be Dave and one could be David. Or how would you like to?
Can you be Dave?
Yeah, I usually am Dave, so I'm good.
So
Okay.
David is me. It's a common problem and a very common name, so
Okay.
it's going to get frustrating after a while when two people are jumping on the same question and stuff. So.
Got it. The other thing I'll say is just about our intention. So, you know, these empathy circles are being run by the Center for the Center for Building a Culture of Empathy, which Edwin Rutsch founded. And the goal of doing these conversations is to create more understanding and more empathy and more constructive dialogue among people who think differently. That's the whole purpose of this. So I think it's good to state that intention, and that's why we're participating in the circle. That's why we're doing it. Anyone else have anything they want to say before we start? Okay, so I'll be the first listener, and who would like to be the first speaker? And again, the topic is political identity. What do you think of as your political identity, and why do you see yourself that way?
So wait, I have a question. Are you going to be a participant too, since there's
I
only
am, and that is one of the aspects of this process is the facilitator participates. So I'm an equal participant. I may do things like say, oh, wait a minute, you know, if the process is not quite being followed or if somebody's struggling, I may help out. But other than that, I'm a participant like everybody else.
You're a participant and a referee?
I'm not a referee. My job is to kind of hold the process just to make sure that we are actually doing the process and not just like having a conversation or, you know, cause this is a structured listening process. It's not just a conversation.
Okay.
Okay. So who would like to be the first speaker?
I guess I'll go.
Okay. David, thank you.
All right. So, hello, my name is David. I didn't think too much about this topic because it just kind of crept up. I agreed to it like a week ago or something, or a couple weeks ago, and I got a reminder a couple hours ago. And I just try to participate in these things when possible because it seems it's hard to get people to show up to these things, especially that identify as conservative. And so I'll stop there and you repeat that.
Sure. So you haven't done a lot of preparation for this thing about political identity, and but you're wanting to participate because you're aware that sometimes it's difficult to get conservative voices to participate in these circles. So you're happy to be representing that, or you're I think that's it. Did I miss anything?
No, I just wanted to stop there.
Okay.
So you could reiterate. I
Sure.
didn't want to flip you.
Yeah.
And as far as what I identify as, I I try not to box myself in. You know, I tend to bend to where what the circumstances I feel the circumstances need. I identify mainly as a conservative now, just to give it a label because I lean more towards that, and my interests are more towards people who identify as conservative, especially here in the Bay Area. I feel like it's necessary for me to own up to that, like, because a lot of people treat that as a dirty word around here.
Okay, so I'll reflect that back. So I heard you say that you tend to identify, you tend to call yourself a conservative because you tend to find yourself identifying with the positions of people who call themselves conservative, but you also consider yourself kind of open, and you don't like boxing yourself into any particular label. And you're also aware that being in San Francisco in the Bay Area, that conservative is maybe not a popular term, and so you maybe worry a little bit about being accepted for your view.
Actually, you got all that right, except for the end. I try to be outwardly conservative here as much as it's intelligent to do because it is shunned, you know.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I do.
Yeah, so rather than being, I got that wrong, rather than being shy about expressing yourself, you actually try to make a point of expressing yourself because you feel like that point of view is not necessarily heard so much in the Bay Area.
Yes.
Okay.
I feel heard.
Okay. All right, so it's my turn. Art, will you listen to me?
Just one second. Did we talk about time?
Sure.
Did you say
we said 3 minutes?
Okay. All right.
And your timing?
Yes.
Okay. And I guess we're going to hear an auditory signal, not a visual.
I've got this. I'll hold it up.
Okay. Well, yeah, okay. And I'm happy getting the auditory here, but the visual's fine too.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. So political identity. So I would say that I'm a liberal, maybe even progressive, although while I think of a lot of things I care about probably are progressive, I have a slight discomfort maybe with using the term progressive because many of the progressives, people call themselves that I know are kind of militant, about their progressiveness. And were you wanting me to wait?
Is that okay? May I
go ahead, sure.
repeat that so far?
Yeah, sure.
I hear you saying that. Thank you. I hear you saying that you're liberal, that your ideals lean towards progressive. However, you're concerned about labeling yourself progressive because of the militant aspects of many of the people who also identify as progressives.
Yeah, and by militant, I mean they seem to hold their perspectives very righteously and with a lot of judgment about others who believe differently. And those are very, very, very sure about what they think is right. And they tend to try to create change by just saying how right they are and how wrong other people are. And I don't think that really helps. I don't think that really helps create change. Yeah. So, yeah. And I resist political labels in general, I would say, for that reason, because it tends to put people in pigeonholes. And I think putting anyone in a pigeonhole or making a lot of assumptions about them because of a label is not a good idea. I think dialogue is good.
I'm hearing that you're defining militant in the aspect of progressives as they're being very sure of their point of view and being judgmental, and sounds like self-righteous is a word that comes to mind as I'm listening to you, and that just labeling in general is kind of compartmentalizing us and sort of limiting what we can be simply by the virtue of that label.
Yeah, and I want to be clear that some people are very righteous and judgmental. I would never say all people in any group or under any label are like that. And certainly there are people from all across the spectrum who are judgmental and righteous about their positions. And I just think dialogue and nuance and fair-mindedness, those are the things I value.
I hear you being clear about that you feel that not all progressives are judgmental, and at the same time, there's some people from across the entire political spectrum who are judgmental as well. And then I got distracted by the timer. I didn't miss that last part.
that I value fair-mindedness and dialogue.
Yes, and actually, I just realized that I actually missed that in the second segment too, the dialogue part. And thank you for repeating that.
Okay, thank you. I feel heard.
Okay, so my turn, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Dave?
Yep.
So I'm going to time while you're doing it.
Okay, I just said it, so you don't have to worry about it.
All right.
Well, thank you for giving me this time. I would say in the process of conversation, usually that I identify as liberal. I definitely feel my qualities and my virtues are definitely on the liberal side of the fence. However, I do also, and I would say also progressive, liberal leaning towards progressive, because I believe in progress more than it being a political label. However, I do feel that I am as balanced. I try to be balanced, and I also value the idea of listening to the other side rather than imposing my views, because as Lou was saying, the dialogue is where things actually happen, and if we just kind of on the opposite sides of the aisle just say our own viewpoints, I find that usually doesn't get us very far.
So you identify as liberal, progressive. You associate your virtues and your qualities with the liberal side. You seem to identify with the progress part of the word progressive. Something you believe in or you want to see happen. You also see righteousness as a problem, and you want to listen and dialogue.
Yeah, I don't know that I see righteousness as a problem so much as, although I guess it is by default, but I think just I like to think that everybody has some good views to whatever their politics are. And I like to think that there are, especially from the context that my belief is that no matter what your political leaning, you believe that that's right, and therefore that's valid to me. And so that's where I like to begin the conversation.
So you acknowledge everybody's viewpoint as being real for them. And that's a starting point for you.
Yeah.
Is there more? Did I miss something?
No, I think that was it. You consolidated nicely. Yeah, I feel heard. Thank you.
Okay. So now it's my turn. I guess I'll speak to David.
Yeah.
I forgot to run the clock last time, but I will run it this time. So I want to say, first of all, we didn't do the introductions, that I'm a participant in the tent. I normally would be a facilitator, but we don't have enough people here. I identify also on the, as a whole bunch of things. I would say I'm of the democratic socialist variety, but that doesn't mean I like everything Bernie says. I grew up in Europe, actually, and I like a regulated capitalism with but where people, the goal of the society is one of the goals of society is for people to take care of each other. Well, I'll stop there.
Okay, David. You said that you are a participant in the empathy tent. To what degree, I'm not sure. And you do identify more on the left of the spectrum. You classify yourself as somewhat of a democratic socialist, yet you don't really follow Bernie Sanders. Like, you're not a Bernie Sanders fanboy, apparently. Will agree with everything he says, and that you grew up in Europe and you like their combination of regulated capitalism with social programs attached to it.
Right. And, I enjoyed this subject because I think it's interesting to think about why one identifies as what one identifies. And I think about, when I think about something like health insurance, I really can't relate. I mean, some of what one is in the political sphere, we identify as what we're not. So I don't agree with the way the conservative side looks at healthcare. So that puts me on the liberal side or the democratic side or whatever you want. It's not, that's just how that works.
Okay, you said that you relate your views on healthcare is not that of conservatives, so you find yourself by default on the left end of the spectrum.
Right. I guess what I was saying is in politics, to a certain extent, we sometimes become what we are not.
Yeah. Okay. You just said that in politics, sometimes you are automatically placed somewhere if you're not 100% on board of a viewpoint.
Yeah, or if you're not on one side, you're on the other side.
So there's a I forget the word I'm trying to hear. The nature of splitting things up into two. There's a dichotomy.
Mm-hmm.
Seems that you're either one way or the other.
Right. Okay, I feel heard. My time was up.
Okay.
Okay. I guess it's my turn now. I got a little timer here too. I guess I'll go back to David here. What is it? I am curious to hear. Like, I mean, kind of sum it up a little bit because it's a complicated issue. But what are the general things that you disagree on healthcare with the generic conservative message here in the U.S.? What are your complaints with their viewpoint of that?
So I'm just going to break in here as facilitator for a second and just say that, so the job of the reflector is to reflect back what they're hearing you say. So if you ask someone a question, they're just going to reflect back the question. It's
so
not,
no questions?
they're not going to answer it. So, and I think the design of this process is more for people expressing themselves than asking each other questions.
I've done this before where we've asked questions and then they repeat the question back and then they answer it.
Yeah, and you can do that if you want. If that's what you want to do with your time, is ask a question, you could do that. But this process is designed more for people expressing what they want to say than asking each other questions. But if you want to ask a question,
I'm looking for direction here, so I felt I need to ask David a question, and it's up to you whether you want to answer it or not.
I'm happy to answer it.
Yeah, so if you could just, wait.
I stopped your time, so I'll start it again. Oh no, that's my time. Yeah, whatever. We should extend the time anyway.
So go ahead and reflect back the question, Dave.
So the question is, you'd like some more detail, I guess, you'd like to understand better why what are the problems I have with the conservative point of view on healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
Is there more that you want to say, David?
Oh, that's going to dictate what I would maybe say next. I'm just getting a feel for it. I can express myself through statements and questions.
Okay. So it's my turn to talk. I'm going to answer, but I'm going to speak to somebody else just to keep everybody involved, okay? So I'll speak to Art. Okay? What I don't, for me, insurance, the basic concept of insurance is that we all join together. My understanding of the basic concept of insurance is that we all, at one point or other, are going to be in trouble, and we agree, basically, that if we pool our resources, when you're in trouble, the money will be there for you, and when I'm in trouble, the money will be there for me, and that it's the most effective. Pooling our resources is the best way to insure ourselves for that day when something goes wrong. That's the sort of my simple understanding of what insurance starts out as.
Okay, I'm hearing that that you believe that healthcare and insurance is about the fact that we're all going to eventually need it. So therefore, if we all pool into it and we each take when we need it, that's how you understand insurance to work.
Yeah, and I don't understand why there needs to be insurance companies that make money off of us pooling our resources. That doesn't seem to be a necessary, to me, part of the system.
I hear you saying that you have a concern and a misunderstanding or lack of understanding as to why there would be companies who would be profiting off of this collective insurance, which is looking out for each of us together.
Right. And so I'm not saying that I, think we should all be forced into Medicare for all right tomorrow. I don't think that that's going to work personally in this country. We're in a totally different place. If we try to just go there tomorrow, I don't think that's going to be a good thing. But, I think one of the reasons that healthcare costs so much more in this country than everywhere else is because everybody who's a provider in the healthcare system here, whether it's doctors, insurance companies, hospitals, machine operators, they all make much more money than they do in any other country in the world. It's a very profitable business for people to be in. And, that's one of the reasons it costs so much here.
I hear you expressing that you have concerns about the Medicare for all model that's being proposed by the progressives, because you feel that it's a very long way from where we are now to that, and that would cause many problems to try to make that transition. And then I'm also hearing that you understand that the reason why healthcare costs in this country are so much higher than that with the rest of the world is because of the amount of money that each individual player within the system is actually earning as compared to the rest of the world.
Right. Can we stretch out to 5 minutes, Lou?
Let's complete, since we're doing 3 minutes, let's complete this round of 3 minutes, and then we can go to 5 minutes.
Okay. So I feel heard. Thank you.
Okay. David, would you listen to me?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, healthcare is a big deal for me too. I very much what Dave just said resonates with me very strongly. That I believe that our system is very bloated, and it's because of profiteering of these various especially the big insurance companies, and that's something when I consider my politics, it's something that weighs very, very heavily into it.
Okay. It seems that you just said that healthcare is an issue for you, and you think it's a very bloated because it's for profit, basically.
Right. And then that ties into, I guess, what else sort of makes me, pushes me into the progressive, and I do identify a little bit as the democratic socialist as well, although I am not a Bernie fanboy either. I feel the same way about healthcare as I do about other social safety nets that are here to provide for people who are not who are in trouble, and in the same way that insurance provides that for the whole of society. Each of us puts in, and then each of us takes out as we need it, and everything balances. I find the same to be true with other social safety nets, and that's why I believe in taxes going towards those things.
Okay, so generally you believe you identify as a democratic socialist, and you do not necessarily agree with everything Bernie Sanders says, but that you generally believe in the importance of social safety nets that everyone puts into.
Yeah, because I have my belief is, in the same way that I believe in listening to people with opposing beliefs to mine, my belief is that we're all in this together, and that we should all do what we can to lift each other up. And that's the driving philosophy of my life, which of course is included in my politics.
Okay, you said that you believe essentially that we're all in this together, and that heavily influences where you align politically.
Yeah.
Okay, I think time's up. I didn't start it on time, but it's.
I feel heard. Thank you.
You feel heard, Art?
I do, Dave. Thank you. David. Sorry.
David. Two syllables.
Gotcha.
Okay, so this is my turn.
Who are you speaking to?
Who am I speaking to? I'll speak to I'll shoot back at art, but I won't always shoot back at the person talking. It's just attention span reasons, you know. Let's see, how should I answer this, or not answer this, but how should I state this? My views on insurance. Let's just say that I realize it's an extremely complicated issue, and I feel like I do not have enough information for me to make an educated, like, certain statement about how things should go that way. I do not confuse myself as having that much knowledge. I do have opinions, you know, and intuitions, and my general intuitions can affect where I might align politically. And I've got beliefs and intuitions, and I have a strong belief in tough love, self-sufficiency. I think that makes good people. I think that we all have to coexist with each other because we're here, and we have to. I mean, that's the reality. We got to deal with people, you know. But I do not believe. Oh, sorry. Let me stop there.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Attention span. I'm hearing you say that with regards to insurance, it's a very, very complicated issue, and that you feel that you don't necessarily have the full information or enough of full information to make educated opinions about things. However, you do have intuition, which you're saying that I'm hearing that you believe in your intuitions.
I said that I do not have enough information to state facts.
Right, not opinion. Right.
Yeah, but I reserve the right I have the opinions, you know, and intuitions about it. That's.
Thank you for clearing that up. I couldn't remember the word that you used. I was misspeaking, and actually I felt it as I was saying it. Your opinions and intuitions you do have, but you don't feel like you have enough for the facts. Thank you. You went on to say that that you believe very much in what I was understanding as you mentioned the word tough love, which to me sounds a lot like self-sufficiency is something that you believe in, and that you believe that makes people better as individuals.
Yes. I feel heard. Okay. Do I still have time? All right.
Time's pretty much up.
All right. Well, I had the second part to that, but all right.
Well, go ahead. Why don't you do the second part?
Let's just move to a 5-minute section.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Because I stopped so he could repeat it, you know.
Yeah.
Go ahead, please.
So my start where I stopped off, you know. So my beliefs in self-sufficiency and tough love, that I think good intentions are often exploited. I think altruism only exists in ideas. In an idea, you know, it's something a lot of people like to claim because it sounds pretty. I think everyone's pretty selfish, and so I don't think people can be trusted to participate in like a collective effort that would kind of have to operate somewhat on an honor system, that people are actually not trying to abuse it. Because my opinion on human nature is not that high. We are not angels. So that's the reason I believe in people in self accountability. Everyone has to sort of protect themselves, so that way they're forced to be good people. That makes it, or at least responsible people, because it's only their money they're dealing with.
Okay, I'm hearing that trust is a big issue for you. I'm hearing that you're concerned with the trustworthiness of all players involved, and therefore there's a concern that that bad players could take advantage of a system, and I feel like you're saying that that you believe that the system itself should somehow have the trust embedded, whereby everybody kind of takes care of themselves, and therefore there is no trust necessary?
Not trust embedded, more like trust removed. Like, everyone's accountable for their actions, essentially.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. I guess I had that reversed, but yeah. So instead of trust within the system, that you think that a system should not rely on trust.
I feel hurt, except for at the very start, I mentioned that I do not believe that altruism exists. There's no such thing as selflessness, essentially. And I think that's at its core defines me where I align politically.
Thank you for repeating that. Yes, I remember now that you said it, and you also used the word that we're not angels, and that you feel that that is a very strong driver of your political views.
Yes, I feel hurt. Do I still have time, or?
No, time's up.
Okay,
That was 5 minutes now.
that's cool.
Yep.
I feel hurt.
Okay.
Your turn, Art.
Okay, Lou.
Yes.
Would you listen to me? Thank you.
Yes. Thanks for including me.
So we're doing now we're doing 5 minutes.
Right.
Okay. This is a fascinating conversation, because I actually, if it's okay to sort of take from the last conversation, I believe that that one of the reasons why we feel that people are not trustworthy, and I feel that one of the reasons why people do tend to, or some people tend to take advantage of, social safety nets, is because of a scarcity of them. And it's my political views are driven by the fact that people are intrinsically good and trustworthy, and the at least the great majority are, and I believe that that we, as I said earlier, we are all in this together, and that it works. That if we can commune and work together, I believe that then that removes reasons for abusing a system, and therefore trust is also not necessary.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you were saying that that you do come from a basic assumption that people are good by nature and trustworthy, and that if we have collective systems that help take care of everyone, then cooperating in that way can make it so that people don't have to take advantage of systems, and that if some people do take advantage of the systems that exist now, it's because there isn't enough of them, and that too many people are struggling without their needs being met, and that's what leads people to take advantage of systems, not that they're inherently bad people.
That's exactly what I was saying. Yeah, and I guess I really just do believe that that if we all engage in a sense of abundance, then we will all flourish through that acceptance. And that's I guess my world philosophy, which of course translates into my politics. And I guess that,
let me just reflect that back.
Sure.
So you're saying that if you look at the world as an abundant place, meaning there's a lot of resource to take care of people, and that if everyone looked at the world that way, as a world of abundance as opposed to a world of scarcity, then that there isn't enough, then there's something that happens from that where we all can take care of each other, because it creates a certain kind of, I don't know, confidence, or a certain kind of culture.
Yeah, that's right. And then how that translates into, a social construct like our government and our United States here is that, the taxation issue, that people who have, much more should pay much more to even out those who have much less, and therefore we sort of create an equilibrium with this entire abundance. Now that doesn't mean that I believe that people shouldn't be allowed to make more. I just believe that it should be balanced by a likewise contribution. And I feel that right now in our society, that is very, very slanted and very, very unequal. And I think that's the root of many of our problems.
So I think what I'm hearing you say now is that as part of this worldview that says we're all in this together, and so we should all help take care of each other, the idea that as part of taking care of each other, people that have more should contribute more to the pool that helps us take care of everyone, and that's kind of the thinking that where the progressive tax system comes from, and that you think that a big root of our problems right now is that it's very unequal, and so some people are going without, and other people have huge amounts, and they're not really participating in taking care of everyone.
I feel heard. Thank you.
Okay. Great. Okay, I'll speak to Dave.
To me or to David?
Yeah, to Dave. To you.
No, you're one syllable. I'm two syllables.
Right. Not David, but Dave.
Okay. Thank God. Don't call me David.
Yeah. So I'm loving this conversation too. It feels very good to be talking about these things. And what's really alive for me right now is something actually that I feel pretty strongly, and sometimes I am nervous about saying in progressive groups, which is that I really believe that there's a grain of truth in every perspective. And that what happens in our politics is that those grains of truth get distorted. They get like stretched and pushed to the edges and distorted into ways that make them seem horrific or kind of, or unacceptable. So for instance, I believe in self-sufficiency. I believe that people learning to take care of themselves, people learning self-reliance, people building inner strength and building outer strength, like skills, outer strength, survival skills, those are all really important. And taking responsibility for oneself and saying, I'm going to figure out how to solve this, I think that's a really good thing to teach. I teach my kids that, and I think it's a good attribute. And I also think, and it's not a contradiction to say that collective action is also a good thing. And that, yeah, sorry, go ahead, Dave.
You're enjoying the conversation. You have strong feelings about some aspects of the conversation. Every point of view has a grain of truth in it, and but often these grains of truth get sidelined because it's harder to stand in a coherent place and absorb these various points into one thing, so that even though you're a progressive, you do believe that people should be self-sufficient and self-reliant and virtues in some sense that are associated with the conservative side in some sense at this point.
Yes, thank you. And it's not, I did say that they get distorted, but actually hearing it back from you, I'm realizing what I'm wanting to say is they get held as though they're the only truth. Like only collective action is what matters, or only self-reliance is the truth. And so they're mutually exclusive. Like you can't have both. And I think you can have both. I think the I think the trick is to hold both, is to say, yes, individuals should be self-reliant, and yes, sometimes we need to say no to people. I certainly said that to my kids growing up, teaching them boundaries and limits and no. And I love them and they know I love them and I embrace them and I'm there to support them. I'm there as a backstop if they need me. And they know that they can count on me if they need me. So within my family, that's how I do individuality and collective action at the same time.
So things get to be too black and white. You know, it's either one thing or another thing. When we can have, you can be, we can have, you know, we can join being self-reliant, and we can be self-reliant and we can work together. And, you know, using your family as a model for society, I guess you're saying, you know, you have to be able to say no, you know, and you have to, you know, learn how to take care of yourself. But it's also good to know that, you know, if you get into trouble, that you the parent, you the society are there.
Yes, thank you. I feel very heard. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm done.
Okay. So I will speak to David.
Hello.
So I see all of this in a sort of, I guess one of my biggest concerns is, you know, how we as a species, how we humans are going to survive. And I feel that if we don't learn how to work collectively together, we're not going to survive. That, you know, the weapons that we have and the problems that we face in terms of our planet being overpopulated and the environment and all that are going to require us to work together.
Okay. You just you said that you were worried that if mankind as Homo sapiens as a species don't learn to work together better with each other, our technology would, in consideration of our technology and our population, that we are looking at, you know, possibly destroying ourselves.
Right, and I feel that, you know, the sort of tribalism that is now rearing its head all over the place is a leftover from our past. That it's like it's a place where we know how to go because that's what we always did. But I feel like that's not going to work for us now. Like, you know, if we can't have a fight with China, a real fight with China. We can have a little fight with China, some proxy fight, but we can't have a real fight with China. We can't have a real fight with the Soviets. We'll all kill each other. So that's not something that's plausible. You know, we're not going to win a war against either one of these places, and they're not going to win a war against us. So I don't understand, you know, I don't understand the whole starting point from a lot of this stuff that goes on.
Okay, let me repeat that. You said that you feel like tribalism is a problem, that it's, you know, it's leftover stuff from like our past as, you know, cavemen on up. I'm guessing.
Yes.
That you know, manifests itself in the modern day, and you think that due to, I'm guessing, nuclear weapons, that we cannot afford to be that territorial and tribal due to mutually assured destruction.
Right. I think it's too easy to make a mistake that we can't recover from. And that, you know, this sort of, you know, I think we need to find some sort of balance, which, you know, in a way that's what we've been talking about is, you know, how do we deal with the fact that we are selfish? A lot of us are selfish. And, you know, we've grown up as a species being competitive, and competitiveness is important for doing all kinds of things, but competitiveness can be really dangerous also. And I think we're involved in the empathy tent. I'm involved in the empathy tent because to go to something Art said, I think we're all in it together. We can't escape from that anymore. We used to be able to. We could go back, we could come over the hill and fight and then go back home. But I don't really see that anymore.
Okay, that's I spaced out towards a little bit, but
I guess I'm just saying, I think we can't escape the fact that we're all in it together. We're not going to escape that. And we need to figure out how to organize ourselves, differently. That doesn't mean, socialism or totalitarianism or anything, but, empathy is a really good place to start.
Okay, so I'm going to backtrack a little bit to make sure you feel like that you do agree that people are selfish and competition has its place, but times are not the way they used to be, and things are getting more interconnected and troubling and on a bigger scale than ever, and you feel like empathy is a good gateway out of that.
Right.
You feel hurt?
I do feel hurt.
Okay. So I guess it's my turn.
Yep.
I'm glad I asked you that question because it got things rolling. I wanted to kind of see, sometimes you have to dig just a little bit to get to the meat.
Are you speaking to me?
Oh, I apologize. I'm going to speak to, just to mix it up, I'm going to Art. You there, Art?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I think we've gotten to the a heart of the issue, like maybe what's the difference between left and right, conservative, liberal, progressive, and while we define ourselves by a simple thing of me being unsure or not believing in altruism in the natural good of man, and you guys believing that man is inherently good. I think that's a key core thing that separates the two ideologies.
Thank you for the pause. I hear you saying that that you believe that we've gotten through this conversation, we've gotten to a core truth for you, that your belief or your disbelief in altruism and the inherent goodness of people is opposing to what the liberals seem to believe.
But that's the difference between the two.
Right.
Yes.
That's what I meant. Sorry.
I feel heard. I do believe in a balance as well. And I think it was Jung that said that in order for your branches to reach heaven, your roots must go all the way down to hell. And I believe that there's a balance of good and evil. And you can lean too far on either side and cause destruction.
Okay, I hear you say that you believe in balance, and you quote Carl Jung as saying that in order for your branches to reach up to heaven, your roots must reach down to hell, and that's illustrating that balance. You said something after that, and I'm sorry.
That you can lean too far one way or the other, and cause like imbalance or destruction, disharmony.
Right. That leaning too far one way or too far the other is what causes the imbalance and destruction.
That's just what I've come to believe. And I'm not a rich person. I've never been a rich person. And especially the more older I get, I would like to claim that I've always been this way. It's none of my business how much or how little my neighbor has. And I can only really, because I can't control people, I can only control myself. And I think that, I'll pause so you can repeat that.
Thank you. So you stated that this is what you've come to believe, and that you feel like you believe that you've always been this way, but you feel like you don't have any, or first, I'm sorry, that you've never been rich, and that you believe that it's not any of your business how much your neighbor has,
Or how little.
or how little.
Yeah. I feel heard. And okay, how much time do I got? A couple more minutes probably. This is due to life experiences. You know, I'm a recovering drug addict. I used to live under a bridge and shoot speed and stuff. I try to bring this up to kind of get perspective of why I've come to terms with some of this stuff. And there's people who tried to help me. There's agencies that tried to like house me and stuff, but until I was ready to straighten myself up through some key showings of tough love, that I was fuel my own destruction. And through that, you know, and I think just getting older, being sober, kind of makes you naturally more conservative anyway. I feel that, you know, I'd like to project my own success of overcoming difficulties would probably be similar to other people as well. And I do not want to subscribe to another way, especially when my tax dollars are involved.
Okay, I hear you saying that that you're basing your beliefs on personal experience. You opened up and very vulnerably told us that you used to live under a bridge and were addicted to drugs, and that you expressed that that various agencies, which are part of the social safety net that I referred to earlier, tried to reach out and help you, but you feel that until you were ready to take accountability for yourself and to, you know, and I guess you also mentioned that you received tough love in that process, and that without that accountability and that tough love, no matter what the agencies were doing, it was never going to help you. And
But fuel my destruction.
Okay, so even worse than not helping you, actually push you further into your destruction. And enabled, thank you. And you feel that that you don't want your tax dollars going to that process.
I feel heard. That's probably all my time, right?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing that. Okay, so Lou, I want you to be part of it, but I'd like to talk to Dave, if that's all right.
Actually,
I'm good either way. You want to hear me?
Okay, no, it's okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So
Talking to David or Dave?
Dave.
Okay.
Yeah, you.
Okay.
So I want to say that this is a fascinating process, because by forcing ourselves to listen to each other fully, it prevents us from sort of jumping in a reactive way on these conversations, which I find is often the case. And I feel that applying empathy to this political realm is powerful and is profoundly helpful for me.
Let him reflect that back.
Yeah.
So you're appreciating the structured dialogue that forces us to listen to each other and keeps us from interrupting each other.
Yeah.
And it's especially helpful for this political dialogue.
Yes, thank you. And I wanted to also express that that I believe that it was you who said it earlier, that when I believe that it's like, at least the way I interpreted what you were talking about before, is that the world has changed so much with the level of population, the level of interconnectedness, and I'll take that further to say an interdependence that we're living with globally, that we've come so far, but yet we're trying to apply the same logic we did when we were much less connected and much more spread out and much less populated. And I believe that that's a big part of the problem.
Yeah, so you're taking off from where I started or reinterpreting what I said, which is that we've outrun ourselves in some sense. We're ahead of ourselves. We haven't our way of being hasn't kept up with the changes that we have created that have happened.
Yeah, and I think that ultimately goes to this general theme that I've heard a lot tonight, is that without without this communal cooperation, that there's no way that we can, we're running out of time on this planet, and without some level of cooperation, it's hard to envision us kind of making it through what we're going through.
Yeah, so you're feeling a sense of urgency, and that if we don't cooperate, it's hard to imagine how we're going to survive.
Yeah, because I think this speaks to I guess I would call it the self-serving nature that we've had, or this tribalism, as you could say, is that the tribalism is at odds with the necessity for us to work not only with each other, but also with our environment and with our natural world, because I feel like that's something that we haven't had a connection to in a long time, and I feel that that's much more urgently a part of the problem at this point.
Right, I sort of got lost there. That
should I just repeat, or?
Yeah, just clarify that one more time. I don't know
Sure.
if I spaced or what happened.
It's all good. I feel that not only is it a sense that we need to work with each other as humans, but I think it also is required that we need to work with our natural world, with the environment, as well, and that's as collectively. So almost like the environment has to be a player in this, which I think it's not now, and I think that's a very big part of the problem.
Right, I think what you're saying is we need to empathize with the environment. It sounds like what you're saying also, not just with each other, but also with the environment.
That's a great way to put it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do I have time left? Or?
Yeah, it hasn't gone off.
Okay.
Not much, but you got time.
Okay. And yeah, I believe that again, the rules have changed so much because of the the massive power that we have, and again, not only to destroy each other, but to destroy the very world that we're living in.
Right. So you're just reiterating that things have changed a lot, and we haven't kept up.
Yeah. Thank you. I feel heard.
Okay, I'll speak to Lou. You ready?
Yeah.
So just to bring it sort of full circle, where with this personal self-responsibility, and I guess, and to you, what you said before, it becomes black and white, and I think when we're so polarized like we are now politically and in Congress, we don't start with, okay, so David over there believes in self-reliance, and we believe in, or David, the conservatives' perspective, let's put it this way, is that people aren't trustworthy, and we're going to set up a world based on the assumption that people aren't trustworthy. And I think our point of view is, or my point of view is, I don't think everybody's trustworthy. So I think we need systems that regulate people. We need regulation. That's why I think we need regulation. But I think there has to be a mixture of, regulating people's behavior because they're not trustworthy, and figuring out how we can work together to solve our problems. I don't know, I said too much there, but
that's okay. So what I'm hearing you say is that you're acknowledging the kind of difference in points of view of maybe the conservative point of view that not everyone is trustworthy, and so we have to be realistic about human nature, and some people might cheat. You're saying we have to you're acknowledging that, and the the more liberal point of view that, you know, people are basically good and we need to help take care of each other, and we need to mix those two things. And in your view, the way to mix them is, you know, yes, we have systems that help take care of people, but no, we don't just trust people that they're going to use them fairly. We have regulation and we have rules to.
Yeah, well, and I would also say I'm not sure that my point of view is that people are basically good. I mean, yes, that's how I sort of interface with the world. But I guess I think the progressive or the left's point of view is we can be better than we are now. You know, and I think that that's where one of the left-right things happen, is the left tends to be critical. You know, so the left will criticize the country, you know, and on the right, it's kind of my country right or wrong, you know, and it's seen as being, that's like one of the really interesting discussions I've always wanted to have is, you know, what is the meaning of being a patriot from the left and the right, you know, and I think it's a similar, you know, duality.
So another kind of duality of positions that you're expressing is that the idea that the left believes in that we can be better, and that the road to being better is to criticize, to analyze and criticize what's wrong, and the right tends to think my country is the greatest, you know, pride and patriotism, we're the best, and my country right or wrong, whatever, you know, whatever it is, and that those are extremes that also can be brought together. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, yeah, I think the right is correct that, you know, there are parts of the left that see everything as being horrible, and everything isn't horrible. You know, in a lot of ways, you know, certainly for a lot of people, things aren't horrible, and there's, you know, many more people across the world living well than have ever been before. Things aren't just horrible, and the left can certainly portray things as being just horrible. But that doesn't mean at the same time, you know, that one can't be critical. And I think, yeah, we on the left, we feel criticism is healthy.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing you say, again, trying to hold those two perspectives together, the idea that criticism can be helpful, and if it's taken too far, then it just sounds like you're criticizing everything, and the left is certainly can be guilty of that. And
Right.
But that a healthy amount of criticism helps identify problems and helps promote progress to make things better.
Right.
Yeah, and that we need both of those.
Right. Okay. My time's up. You did a great job reflecting.
Okay. So I'll speak to David.
Hey, what's up?
So I'm really enjoying this conversation. So I want to say that I think human beings have the capacity for selfishness and for violence and for those two things, and the capacity for fear, to be afraid of things. And we also have the capacity for love and joy and connection and generosity. So we have the capacity for both of those things. And in my view, the kind of society we create has to do with which ones of those things do we encourage in each other. And so I'll stop there.
Okay, you tell me that that you believe human people have the capacity for good and evil, selfishness and selflessness, and that as a society we should think about which one of those we try to encourage.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, and so I think, and this comes from both my experience as a parent and my experience in the world as a person and a leader, you know, that if I appeal to my children's fear, like if I tell them that they have to behave a certain way because if they don't, I'm going to punish them, so I'm going to take something away, or I'm going to make them sorry that they behave that way, they're actually less likely to behave the way that I'm hoping. They're more likely to resist that because they want to know that they have power and that they have a sense of agency and that they're not so they're likely to resist it, or they're either that, if they have kind of a rebel personality, they'll resist it. If not, they will comply with it, but they will be resentful and they'll think there's something wrong with them as a result of it. They'll start to view themselves as a bad person, or that they're not worthy, or that something is wrong with them. And if instead I meet them with love and I meet them with understanding, want to understand what's going on in them, and ask them to take responsibility for themselves and contribute, not just me taking care of them and doing everything for them, but I ask them to be a member of the family and to contribute, then, you know, they are much more alive and they become much more themselves, and and they're able to learn and grow. Yeah, so I'll stop there.
Okay, you said that in your experience of raising children, that when you tried to punish bad behavior and reward good behavior type strategy, that they tend to either A, follow their rebellious nature and push it to the limits, or B, become so crushed by the punishment that it hurts them in some way, and that you try to try the strategy of empathy and just try to understand them better and work with them, and you feel like that is better.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. I mean, I think people learn and grow and flourish when they feel safe and when they feel seen and valued and supported. And sometimes support can be tough love. So, you know, what you call tough love, which is saying no or being honest with them. Yeah, that's what I've seen. And the other thing that I've seen very strongly is that making people afraid, trying to teach them by making them afraid, or trying to force them to behave a certain way by making them afraid, doesn't, you know, people don't flourish under that kind of a system.
Okay, you basically said fear-based systems are bad.
Or they result in people that don't really flourish, that don't learn very well, and don't grow, and aren't creative and productive.
Fear-based systems are not productive. I try to condense them. I try to condense it
so.
too much.
Yes, they have very negative consequences, right?
Am I condensing too much?
A little bit, but it's okay. As in essence, that's right. I'm not saying they're bad, like morally bad. I'm saying that they have very negative consequences.
Yeah, not constructive.
Yeah.
Okay.
And more important than that is that the opposite of them, which is creating safety, having people be seen and understood, having people feel welcomed and like they are part of, that creates growth and learning and productivity.
That you feel that, you know, love-based systems are more life-affirming?
Yes.
Okay. You feel heard?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it my turn?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right. I was writing down. I was listening. Also, was trying to write down because I tend to lose focus. And um, okay. And since I'm the only right lean, oh, who am I speaking to? All right. Let's say David. Let's pick David over there. 2-syllable David.
Okay.
All right. I think a big difference. So I mean, it seems like I know David and Art did, but I'm not sure about Lou, identified as a democratic socialist essentially. And so that brings me to a core separation from the way I look at stuff is like capitalism versus socialism. Of course, some people say they want a mixture, but I'm dividing them out just for the sake of argument. That I feel like the main, I guess, downside of capitalism, the negative thing, the emotion that it maybe encourages is greed. And the main negative emotion that kind of results out of socialism is envy. And that I feel that greed can be converted into ambition, but I don't think that envy can be converted to anything useful.
So you think if you just you associate the main negative, I'm not sure I got this right, but you associate greed with capitalism and envy with socialism.
The two main negative things, yeah.
Negative things. And you feel, though, that greed can be transformed into ambition, but envy can't be transformed into anything positive.
Yeah, I feel heard. And I think that's the reason capitalism works, because it happens fairly naturally. Socialism more, I mean, it's because it works. It just works. And I think socialism / communism looks good on paper, but it doesn't take a human nature into account. That greed is here. I mean, people have greed. People have fear. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. Yes, it seems like we should be able to outgrow it, but our technology and our situation is not catching up with our own like reptilian evolution, that or our own mental evolution that it takes to biologically transcend these things. So anything that doesn't take the negative aspects of human nature into consideration is a pipe dream. It's not going to work.
Mm-hmm. So capitalism works. Socialism and communism, I don't remember exactly what you said there in that.
I said that it looks good on paper, but it doesn't take human greed into the equation, and that's the reason it fails.
Right. Socialism and communism fails because it's not realistic for who we are.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And that you acknowledge that also that, our reptilian brain has not kept up with our technological evolution, but our biological evolution is slow. And that's the way it is, and we have to accept that.
That anything that tries to remove that or not take that into consideration is not going to work, because it's just not human. To be human is to have fear, to have greed, to have love, to have compassion. It's all these things. But yeah, we're not angels here, and our systems must reflect that, or because the bad parts of us will abuse any kind of pretty piece of legislature made for angels.
Mm-hmm. So
want me to rephrase that? I mean,
yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm getting tired or what's going on, but
yeah.
So I can reflect it back.
Okay, sure.
Well, so what you were saying is, human nature is people have fear and people have greed, and any system that doesn't take that into account is going to fail. And so that's just being realistic.
Yes.
Okay.
And let's see here. I like to end one more thing while I have time. Okay, I guess to empathy and empathy circles in general, I believe in this format. I think it yields a lot of good results. But to build a society on empathy is naive, because I think that we are essentially selfish. The one thing that can be guaranteed, counted on, is that we're all selfish.
So go ahead, Dave.
You like the process, the dialogue process. You enjoy that.
Yes.
You think it's a good thing, I guess.
Good things can come out of it.
Good things can come out of it, but to build a society based in empathy is naive.
Yes.
Right. You feel heard?
Yes, I feel heard.
Okay.
So I want to point out that it's 8:27, and we said that we would go till 8:30. Okay. So we have, we could either stop now. Actually, it's 8:28 now. So do people want to stop at 8:30?
I don't care. I have no plans. But
would people like to go until we complete it?
Round?
Yeah, let's just complete this round then.
The final round.
Time. What'd you say?
I love that.
What did you say, David?
Final round.
Final round.
Okay.
All right, so I'll speak to Art.
I'm here.
But I'm going to answer David. I think our idea, look, I argue with, I have some problems with some of Edwin's construction of all this, but I think this process, we all experience this process and how good it feels, I think, and how I think it's easy to imagine, when people are in conflict, which we are in our society and which we are across the globe and between countries and all that, how a process like this is helpful.
I hear you saying that despite issues you have with the way that Edwin has constructed this particular group, you believe that the process of empathy and of getting people together to air conflict and to use empathy through our conflicts is a good thing.
Yeah, in other words, I don't believe that necessarily that empathy is a cure-all, that empathy is going to cure us of, all of the characteristics that David is talking about. I don't believe that. But I do think that, having an empathy first approach is a better way than the way we go about things now.
I'm hearing you say that you don't believe that empathy is some sort of panacea for everything wrong with the world. However, you do believe that it's an integral part in, or I should say, you believe that empathy first is the right way to start. It's
a better way, yeah. And I think that, I think, my belief about what we're doing here is we're trying to bring this, this dialogue process out into the world. I think, we imagine imagine if everybody in school learned how to do this when they were young, so that, when they started to have a disagreement or in their families, wait a minute, this discussion is not working. Let's do an empathy circle. I think that would be a good thing for people.
I hear you saying that that you believe that if we were trained to do this from a young age and therefore make it as a sort of trait of our, sort of an automatic go-to when something's not working, that it would make us better as a society.
Yeah, and I think that doing this structured dialogue process, my experience has been as it's changed me, actually. It's changed how I communicate. It's made me more self-aware as a communicator. It's made me realize, I'm not perfect. I haven't become perfect, but I'm better than I was before I did this. I listen better. I interrupt less. I speak in shorter amounts of time. You know, I'm more aware of whether the other person is really taking in what I'm saying.
I hear you talking about a lot of the benefits that you're feeling personally from this process, which includes self-awareness. And though you're not perfect, you feel that you're much better at doing things like listening, interrupting less, and speaking in shorter bursts so that another person can do the opposite. Yeah.
Right. And so I think, you know, what we're saying is that the values that are encompassed in this process are values we want to emphasize in the society.
I hear you saying that that the values that this empathy process is built upon are values that society at large could use.
Right. I feel heard. Thank you.
Cool. All right, Lou, did you hear me?
Yes.
Cool. Thank you. It occurs to me as we're talking that we're talking strictly about differences here, it seems, and it's funny. I know I think it was Dave earlier who said even that it's our differences which define what we are, because it's what we're not defines what we are. I'll let you reflect that before I make my next point.
So you're recalling a part of the conversation that Dave was saying, where sometimes we're defined by what we don't agree with, and you're recognizing that in this conversation we've been talking a lot about our differences.
Yes, thank you. However, it is part of my intrinsic belief and my philosophy that in the end, we all have many, many more similarities than we do differences. And I believe that one of those main similarities is that, you know, that we, and again, this is my philosophy, that we all just want to be, or we're powerfully motivated by the desire to be free from pain and suffering.
So you're wanting to bring into the conversation the idea that we have much, much more in common than we have different as human beings. And this is kind of a core part of your worldview, and that we all of us want relief from pain and suffering. All human beings want that.
Yeah. And one other point I want to make, maybe parenthetically, is that I believe that as a human species, you know, greed and I don't mean to be argumentative, but I just want to pose a counterpoint that I believe that things like greed and fear are human constructs as from a society, and I don't. It's my core belief that those are not inherent values of human nature, and I look to babies when I say that. Like I've never seen a baby who was greedy, and I've never seen a baby who was, you know, inherently fearsome. You know, they're fearsome of being hurt, but they're not fearsome of other people.
So you're bringing in the idea that, or you're questioning the idea that greed and fear are basic human attributes that all of us have, that is a basic part of human nature, and you're saying more that you think maybe they're learned, they're part of a social construct, that we learn to be greedy and we learn to be fearful because of what our environment teaches us, and you look to children for that. If you look at children, you don't see them being greedy and you don't see them being fearful, you see them being kind of fearless. Yeah.
And the last point I'll make is that I believe that's also reflected in the natural world, that you know, generally speaking, although there is conflict throughout the natural world, really it's cooperation which makes everything kind of happen, and that's outside, you know, the human race in the rest of mammalian society of this world. So you're saying now that you also see what you're saying about human nature reflected in the larger animal world, where you don't necessarily see greed commonly, and what you see is cooperation, and that you see animal species surviving because they cooperate with each other. That's exactly right. Thank you very much. I feel very heard.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, so I will speak to David.
Hello.
To complete the circle. Actually, one more. David gets to speak once more, too. So you okay listening to me, David?
I can hear you.
Okay. So I also think when I look at children, babies, I see a desire to be loved, a desire to belong, a desire to have their physical needs met. I think all human beings, not just babies, but adult human beings, they have a desire for meaning, to be engaged in meaningful activity. They have a desire for respect and a desire for to belong and be part of, a desire to play, a desire to witness beauty and be inspired. I think those are basic human needs that everybody has, and different cultures pursue those needs in different ways.
Okay, you said that you've also observed in children the desire to play, desire to be taken care of, and that I spaced out a little bit there. And also that you see this reflected in all people everywhere, and everyone has their own way of going about getting these things. That's the general
Yeah, I'm saying that my observation is that there is and this is from working with lots of different people and listening to lots of different people, that we all have a basic human desire to belong and to be respected and to have meaningful things to be engaged in and to have relationships with other people. I think those are basic needs that all human beings have.
Okay, you think you just said that we all have an innate social component about us, essentially, that we all kind of want to get along or coexist at least.
Yeah, well, yes. Actually, it was more specific than that.
Okay. Sorry, I mean, I don't get everything.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. I mean, and the reason I'm saying that is because you said we all just want to get along. And the truth is, we all want to get our needs met. So the needs that I was talking about, like the need to belong and the need for respect and the need to do meaningful work, the need to feel loved, we all want those things. And if getting along helps us get those things, then great. Some people think fighting help them get those things. Some people think being greedy helps them get those things. I'll stop there.
Okay, you said that. Well, I mean, we all have we all have our self-interest to look after. We all kind of like want to thrive in various ways: employment, happiness, leisure, whatever. And that some believe that cooperation with others is the most effective way of getting that, and some may allow like fear or aggression to be more of their tactics of surviving and getting what you need in this world.
Yeah, and I do think that when people are afraid that they're not going to get their needs met, or their needs are just not getting met, that survival means you do whatever you can or whatever you have to get your needs met.
You just basically said survival is doing whatever you have to do to get your needs met.
Right. And I think history shows that cooperation actually is a better strategy for getting your needs met than not cooperating, than fighting or just looking out after yourself. And I think that if you just look at the amount of cooperation there is in the world, we don't do anything that doesn't rely on other people. almost, in some way.
You just said that cooperation is much more effective than fighting or being afraid of one another, and that you kind of state the fact that due to the interconnectedness of us of this age, that there's very little that we do that doesn't involve other people.
Yes, and it's not just because of the interconnectedness of this age. I mean, human beings have been cooperating forever. That's why we've developed all the things we have, is because we work with others to do it. I mean, almost nothing that we have now is because only one person did it. You know, lots of people work together to create everything that we have, practically.
So you just corrected me that it's not only specific to the current technological age, that throughout history of humans working together has most.
Yes, thank you. I feel heard. Thanks.
Okay. All right. My turn?
Yep.
All right. I guess my final thoughts on some of this. I really wish I had someone else on my side here, but I mean, we're all on the same human side, I guess, right? But I'll talk to David. I'll end it up with David.
Okay.
Is that cool with you, David?
Fine.
All right. Yeah. Actually, you know what? Yeah, David. That's fine. Man, there's a lot. I don't know where to start. See here. I had some notes I was writing down, but I'm just going to throw it away. Yeah, it seemed like everyone sort of repeated that, like what they've seen in children has anything to do with how adults deal with each other. And to be a child, by definition, is to be naive. And no one likes to talk about the pretty things. No one likes to talk about the ugly things. They want to kind of like just hold up the pretty things and ignore, the obvious darkness that's within us all. And I'd like to say that personally, I think a baby is the definition of a selfish thing. All it wants is milk and something to take care of, something to wipe his butt, and it really has no conception of anything else outside of itself. It's like the selfish thing. And as you grow older, you kind of learn to expand out of that. Repeat.
Right. So Lou and Art were using babies as an example of selflessness, and you see it the opposite, essentially. Babies are the definition of the selfish thing. That they only think about themselves or their needs. They only have needs.
And okay, I feel heard, but I can see how someone can get distracted because babies are also cute. If they weren't cute, they wouldn't survive. That's one of the reasons why they're cute. We want to feel empathy. It's naturally easier to feel. I know it might sound horrible, but it's true. You naturally have empathy for it because it's cute. Because I mean, if it was just like a little horrible hobgoblin thing, just telling you to feed it and crying and keeping you up all night, you would probably kill it.
Right. So babies have some qualities that are self-preservation oriented. Yes.
And then if they weren't cute, would we view them as such good creatures?
Right. Well, and you started with we don't want to look at the dark side. We always want to look at the bright side.
Mm-hmm. I saw that was the very start,
Right, but I mean that you're bringing that around to the cuteness of the babies.
Yeah. So people want to usually bring up the cute parts of reality, to kind of distract people from stuff. And the reason I was apolitical for most of my life. I had my own problems, you know, and I would deal with other people as necessity, as people do, you know. But I became political when conservative speakers were being violently attacked by masked attackers just right across the bridge from where I live.
Mhm.
And that activated me. And these are people who fought, who hit, like they actually had shields that said love on it, and they were beating people with that, beating them with their love, you know. So I think this whole area is mentally ill, and that's the only reason why I really even talk about politics around here, because I feel like it's too much of a political monolith here.
Mhm. So you only got activated by the stuff that was happening in Berkeley, it sounds like,
Mm-hmm.
when those speakers were coming here and were being attacked by Antifa.
Mm-hmm.
And you think the body politic here is sick, and that's mentally ill, and that's why you got involved.
That's what activated me.
That's what activated you, yeah.
And I've kind of forced myself to learn more and more.
Uh-huh.
You know, I was kind of blissfully ignorant. But after I saw that, I knew something was really wrong, because this one core belief I have is freedom of expression and speech and dialogue. I think as a past artist, any person who considers themselves pro-creativity or pro-art and is cool with silencing people for, you know, that disagree with them are traitors, as far as I'm concerned, you know, not evolving.
So you see yourself as a creative person or a past artist, and your freedom of speech is one of your core values and dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
You see the left shutting that stuff down, which is what activated you.
Yes.
Okay. So that's it?
Yeah, pretty much. I could go on, but that's...
I mean, we're starting another, that's like a whole other direction. So
I want to thank everyone for participating. Anyone have any last comment before we say goodbye?
I want to just say thank you for everybody. I found this to be extremely productive and inclusive and really wonderful. And I also wanted to say that in the event that I don't sign up for an empathy circle in the future, please just pencil me in. And if you need somebody, because somebody doesn't show up, you can count on me, because I really, really enjoy this and I want to be as part of as many of these as I can.
great.
Okay.
Well, we're going to start email blasting everybody.
Perfect.
I think we decided we're going to do that. So, great. Thank you.
I also want to express appreciation. I enjoyed the conversation, and actually, I specifically want to say thank you to David for participating. You know, so that we have a diversity of voices. Even though I felt, actually, even within all of us, I felt there was a diversity there. So, but thank you anyway.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for, this is always cool. This is like my third or fourth one of these, you know. I might come off as negative or whatever, but I think that's part of the problem is people, like, you can be mature and bring up, you know, problems at the same time. And maybe I wasn't that negative, but I could definitely be a lot more, you know.
Well, I appreciate your honesty,
Yeah.
and I think something that's important in this process is for people to actually be honest. You know, not pretend like that we don't have disagreements or we're not seeing things differently. It's important that we say so, and I think that this container of the process is strong enough to hold people really disagreeing with each other. I think it's fine.
It's a good tool in the tool belt. I don't think it can cure everything, but it's an effective tool from what I've seen so far. I like things.
I mean, I imagine for you being, you know, on the right side or the conservative side around here, you have as much. You can talk to as many, and you can have as many of these sorts of conversations as you want. but you know, there
No,
are
if people actually want to talk, they usually don't want to talk. They're usually just like, oh my God, you have some disease.
right. Right. I mean, I wish, yeah. I mean, I I know for myself, I mean, I don't have enough people on the other side that I get to speak with, really. I really don't, and,
Well, we could use people like you speaking up. If you like a truly diverse community like a diversity of ideas is just as important as skin color and sexual orientation, if not more.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
it's up to you if you want this area to be continue to be a big one-way monolith. I'll keep. That's what happens whenever outside people come in and they get physically attacked and people don't do much about it. I mean,
that's a complicated thing, that whole thing.
yeah.
It's not, Antifa doesn't represent this whole area. I mean,
This area backs them. This area backs them.
we don't back them. And I live in Berkeley. We're not, most of the people don't back them, actually.
Yeah. Most people would say that violence is not okay. I certainly don't.
Most people don't back them. And I think this is a problem. This is one of the problems on both sides. I doubt that I don't know. Do you support those guys that were marching in Charlottesville with the tiki torches?
I don't believe in their ideas, but I believe in their right to do that.
Right, but you don't support them.
No.
Well, I don't support Antifa. I mean, it's sort of the same,
Their right to hurt. I mean, do you support their, like, you don't believe?
I'm sympathetic to the ideas that Antifa is opposed to, but I don't think that what they're doing is helpful. That's the way I would put it. I don't think it's helpful. I think it's a problem. I also think, guys marching with tiki torches and chanting "Jews will not replace us" and stuff like that, that's also a problem. I don't think that's good either. And I don't think those ideas, I've had dialogue with the tent with some of these white supremacists, and, I'm happy to dialogue with them. I am. I'm not afraid to dialogue with them. I think we need to do that, but I don't agree with them at all. And I think that those ideas are dangerous and are a problem. I really do.
There's a lot of ideas that have the potential to be extremely dangerous.
So here's another good topic for a circle. Dangerous ideas.
Yeah.
We should do another circle on dangerous ideas. I think that would be good.
Yeah,
We
dangerous ideas. That's I would definitely sign up for that.
Okay, great. Great.
All right.
I'll schedule one.
I'll be all over that one.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Right.